Yesterday, we were talking about the requirement of northness for Kodshe Kodshim, meaning that whenever you shecht and do Kabbalah, it has to be done in the north. The Gemara had asked the question, from whence do we know that an Ola, which is our source text for all other Kodshe Kodshim, has to be in the north? So the Gemara had answered, well, there's a paragraph having to do with the shechita of a sheep Ola that says explicitly that it has to be done in the north. The Gemara had then said, well, that's all well and good for a sheep, but what about a bull Ola? It doesn't say explicitly northness there. So the Gemara had answered, since they are adjacent paragraphs, and the letter Vav connects the second paragraph to the first paragraph, we say, Yilamed Elyon Mitachton. We say that whatever laws apply to the second paragraph can be moved up to the first paragraph. So once I know that in the second paragraph of the sheep it has to be done in the north, I automatically know that for the bull it has to be done in the north as well. That's where we left off yesterday. Good? So we're on Memches Amud Aleph. And the Gemara says, Hanicha lamando amar lameidin. Lamando amar ein lameidin ma'ika lameimar. So the Gemara says, well, it seems that in itself is the subject of machlokes, whether or not when you have two adjoining paragraphs, that the Vav connects the halachas of the bottom to the top. Because I'm going to show you that this is a machlokes, so you're all fine if, according to the one opinion that says you can do that. But what about according to the opinion that says you don't do that? Where do we see such a machlokes? Detanya, v'im nefesh v'goymer. Now let's just get our bearings here. The Brisa is talking about the korban asham. There are multiple kinds of korban asham, but the two primary kinds of asham are asham vadai and asham safek. Now what do we mean by that? There are certain sins that when you commit that sin, the penalty for committing that sin unintentionally is to bring a korban asham. So there's a number of examples for this. One example is if a person commits an act of me'ilah. He unintentionally benefits from hektish. So the Torah says he doesn't bring a korban chatas, he brings a korban asham to atone. There's another, that's called an asham vadai, where you know exactly what I've done, and you bring an asham as prescribed by the Torah. There's another kind of asham called an asham safek, where normally, if I commit a sin, I would normally have to bring a korban chatas, but in this case, I don't know whether I've committed the sin or not. So for example, if I eat chaylev unintentionally, I have to bring a chatas. Let's say I ate a piece of fat, and I'm not sure whether it was shuman or chaylev, if it was permitted fat or forbidden fat. So in that case, the Torah says, bring a korban asham misafek, to atone for a doubtful sin, an unknown sin. It's called an asham talui. Well, we're calling it, you're right, it's absolutely called an asham talui. Here, we're calling it an asham, right, asham talui or asham safek, it's the same thing. So, the Brisa over here notes that the halacha for bringing a korban asham for me'ilah, when you know for sure you've committed me'ilah, is the first paragraph in a sequence. And immediately after that paragraph comes the law of asham tali or asham safek, where you don't know whether you've committed a sin or not, and the Torah says bring a korban asham. And so, what is the purpose of this adjacency? L'chayiv al safek me'ilos asham tali divrei Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva says it's to teach you that just like you have to bring an asham talui for a safek when you commit any kind of sin as is prescribed in the second paragraph, so too, if you're not sure whether you benefited from hektish, even though the Torah doesn't specifically prescribe a korban for safek me'ilah, but since the law of vadai me'ilah is written adjacent to the case of an asham talui, we therefore say that you bring a korban when you're not sure. You bring a korban asham for a safek me'ilah. That's what Rabbi Akiva says, because he holds of this adjacency. The Chachamim potrin, and the Chachamim say, no, you don't. You only bring a korban asham for vadai me'ilah, not safek me'ilah. My lav b'ha kamiflagi. Mar Savar Lameidin, Mar Savar Ein Lameidin. So it seems like the machlokas between Rabbi Akiva and the Chachamim is whether when you have this adjacency that's connected with the letter Vav, whether you can apply the laws of one to the other. Seems like the Chachamim hold you can't. So what are they going to say about the north halacha regarding the sheep being connected to the bull? So the Gemara says, Omer Rav Papa de Kuli Alma Lameidin, V'hainu Taima de Rabbanan. Nemar kan mitzvos v'nemar bechatas chelav mitzvos, malahalan dover shechayaven al zdono kares val shigagoso chatos, afkan shechayaven al zdono kares val shigagoso chatos. So Rav Papa says, under normal circumstances, even the Chachamim agree that when you have two adjacent paragraphs connected with the letter Vav, you apply the halachos of one to the other. But they have a different limud that they're making, using a Gezerah Shava, which teaches them a different consideration, a different halacha. And that is that the word mitzvos is written in the context of the Asham Talui, and it's also written in the context of the Korban Chatas. And that teaches me that you only bring an Asham Talui for a sin that if it were definitely done, you would have to bring a Korban Chatas. Now, an act of Me'ilah, if it is definitely done, you don't bring a Korban Chatas. And therefore, if it's a Safek Me'ilah, you would not bring an Asham Talui. And that's how say the Chachamim that I know, that despite the fact that the two paragraphs are connected, you never bring an Asham Talui for Safek Me'ilah. So the Gemara says, V'Rebbi Akiva, Malahalan b'kavua, Afkan b'kavua, La'afuke chatos tumas mikdash v'kadashav da'ola v'yoridu. Rabbi Akiva says, I agree with the Gzeira Shava between an Asham Talui and a Korban Chatas, but I learned the Gzeira Shava for something else. It's not to connect the halacha about the level of korban that you would normally have to bring if you did it for sure, but rather it's to teach you as follows, that if you commit a sin, misafek, you're not sure if you did it, and if it was a sin that normally you would bring a chatas of fluctuating value, then you would not bring an Asham Talui. You only bring an Asham Talui if the korban has definitive value. Now, what do I mean by fluctuating value? It's called a korban olav, where depending upon a person's economic status, the Torah allows three different types of korban to be brought, either an animal or bird or flower. So therefore, what Rabbi Akiva says, I hold of the Gzeira Shava, but I only hold that it is teaching me that in the event that I commit a sin misafek, I don't know if I've committed it or not, and if it's a sin that if I knew for sure that I did it, I would have to bring a korban olav yored, a fluctuating value, only then do I not bring a korban asham talui. But for all other sins where the definitive act of that sin has a korban of definitive value, that, such as a chatas or such as an asham me'ilah, so then if I do it misafek, I have to bring an asham talui, an asham safek. Okay? So the Gemara now says, V'Rabbanan ein gzeira shava l'mechza. And the Chachamim say, yeah, we agree with you, Rabbi Akiva, but you can't cherry pick. In other words, there's no such thing as making a halfway gzeira shava. Once the gzeira shava exists, then you have to apply all of the halachas of the one to the other. And therefore, the gzeira shava not only exists to exclude an asham talui for something that would normally require a korban olav yored, but it also comes to exclude any kind of sin that the korban for the definitive commission of that act is not a korban chatas. V'Rebbi Akiva nami ein gzeira shava l'mechza. Well, doesn't Rabbi Akiva agree that you can't cherry pick a gzeira shava? Answers the Gemara in hachinami v'hacha b'haka miflagi. Yeah, that's true. So you have to say that the machlokis over here is Rabbi Akiva savar v'im nefesh ksiv vav mosef al inyan rishon. That Rabbi Akiva says, well, I agree to the Gzeira Shava, but I have a more powerful consideration is because of the letter Vav that connects the law of Me'ilah to the law of Korban Asham Talui. And therefore, despite the fact that there's a Gzeira Shava, but I have this Vav, that's what I'm looking at. V'Rabbanan nami haksiv v'im nefesh. And so what are the Rabbanan going to do with that letter Vav that connects the two paragraphs? So lema b'haka miflagi. Demar savar hekesh adif, umar savar Gzeira Shadav. So therefore, let us suggest that this is the machlokes. That Rabbi Akiva says when you have two conflicting hermeneutical tools to apply, right? Which tool is the more powerful tool to which tool trumps the other. So Rabbi Akiva says the Vav Mosif, the Vav that connects the two paragraphs, is the overriding tool, and the Chachamim say no, the Gzeira Shav is the overriding tool. So the Gemara says lo. Dekuli alma dehekish adif amri chala rabbanan tachton hu degamer me elyan la'asham bekesef shkalim. So the Gemara says not necessarily. It could be that that's not the machlokas. It could be that normally everyone agrees that when you have two adjoining paragraphs connected with a vav, that's the overriding tool that you use to learn out halacha. However, the Chachamim will tell you that that's only in a situation where you take the principles of the bottom paragraph to apply to the top paragraph, where you don't have anything to do in the exchange. But if I can take halachas from the top paragraph and apply it to the bottom paragraph, then that's the purpose of the vav, and I don't switch it and learn the bottom to the top. In other words, I only apply the bottom to the top if there's nothing to apply from the top to the bottom. But in this situation, I can apply the halachas of the top to the bottom to teach me something about an asham talui from asham me'ilos. And what is that? That by the by the pasuk of asham me'ilos, it says kesef shkalim, that a person shall pay for the korban asham animal using silver of shekels, which tells me that there is a minimal amount that the korban has to be purchased for, which is 2 shekels, which is a relatively small amount. It doesn't have to be any more expensive than 2 shekels, right? And that you apply to the law of asham tali as well. Shelo tomar lo yehi sveiko chomer mivado, ma vado chatas basdanka, av sveika asham bardanka. So that you shouldn't think that the suffix of an asham tali should be more expensive than for sure when you committed the sin for sure. So therefore, the Torah has to tell you, to make a point of making sure that you don't suggest possibly another argument, that just like the asham me'ilos only needs to be 2 shekels, the asham tali only has to be 2 shekels as well. V'Rebbi Akiva haisvara minole. So now let me ask you a question. So where does Rabbi Akiva get that halacha from, that an asham tali is 2 shekels? Nafgalei mizos tarasa asham Torah echas lechol ha'ashamos. He learns it out from a pasuk that says, this shall be the general law of the asham. Whenever you find zos tia toras ha-something, that tells you generically that the laws apply universally across the board. What is good for one applies to the other. And therefore, once I know that one korban asham has to be 2 shekels, I know that for all ashams it has to be 2 shekels. Now, Teinach man de islei toras, man de leslei toras mehicha gomar. Well, that only works if you learn that whenever the Torah says zos toras ha something, it means that it creates a universality in those laws. But in the Gemara in Menachos, it says that there's a machlokas whether that's what the meaning of those words are. So, gomar be'erkecha be'erkecha. So the answer is, says the Gemara, the word be'erkecha appears by asham me'ilos, and it appears by the asham talui, and that's how I know that just like the asham me'ilos has to be 2 shekels, so too it does it apply by the asham talui. Teina cheicha d'chsiv be'erkecha, asham shivcha charufa d'loksiv be'erkecha ma'yikal ameimar. Yeah, but that's good for the asham talui, and for other ashams where the word be'erkecha is written. But there are other ashams, like an asham for a shivcha charufa, where the Torah doesn't have the word be'erkecha. How do you know that there too it has to be 2 shekels? So gamar be'el be'el. And the Gemara answers, well, there's another word that appears by the asham of the shivcha charufa, which connects it back to the asham tali and all the other ashams, which is the word with a ram. And so now that I've got all scriptural connections connecting all ashams together, once I know that the asham me'ilos has to be 2 shekels, I know that applies to all other ashams. That concludes our discussion of how I know that all korban olas have to be shechted in the north. Now let's go on to our next discussion. This was the simple part. Let's go on to the next part. Next, chatas minolan debayet safa. Okay, we've covered ola. Now let's talk about the chatas. How do I know that a korban chatas has to be slaughtered in the north? Dichsiv v'shachatas hachatas bimkom ha'ola. So the answer is because the Torah says in the context of a regular chatas that is brought by an individual for an unintentional sin, and it talks about the goat offering that he brings, and it says he shall slaughter the goat chatas in the place where normally the ola is slaughtered. So ashkachan shchita kabbalah minalan. So that only tells me that the shchita has to be done in the north. How do you know that the kabbalah, which we said in the Mishnah, also has to be done in the north? Dichsiv v'lakacha kohen midam hachatas. The answer is because adjacent to that pasuk of the shachat, it says v'lakacha kohen. Right afterwards it says the kohen shall take the blood. So that implies that just like the shechita has to be in the north, so too the lakicha or the kabbalah has to be in the north. So mekabel atzma minolan. Now how do you know that the kohen who is holding the receptacle to receive the blood has to be standing in the north? Because perhaps you could argue that he could have a receptacle with a very long handle. He could be standing in the southern part of the courtyard and stick the handle all the way into the north and receive the blood that way. So Amar Kra v'lokach lo yikach. So the Gemara comes up with this very creative answer, which the Gemara will later say is not so ayayay, but it's v'lokach. That's 4 letters. Divide that into 2 words, vav lamed and kach. So and then take the 2 letters vav lamed and switch them around to spell lo, and it spells lo kach, that he shall take himself. He shall take himself, not just the blood of the animal in the north. He shall take himself into the north, and that's how I know that he has to be in the north as well as the Kabbalah. Now, ashkachan lemitzvah la'akev minayim. So that only tells me that lichatchila, this all has to be done. How do you know that if it's not done in the north, then b'di'evet, the korban is pasul? So kra achrina ksiv. I have another pasuk. V'shachat oso bimkom asher yishchades ha'ola. Now this pasuk is written in the context of the goat that is brought by a nasi. And when a nasi who commits a sin has to atone for it, he also brings a goat as a chatas. And it says the same thing over there, that it's supposed to be done in the same place where the ola is done. V'tanya heichan ola nishchata b'tzafon avzeh b'tzafon. And as the Brisa says, that just like the ola is shechted in the north, so too the sa'ir of the nasi has to be shechted in the north. V'chi mikan atalamed. So now, hold on a second. Are you telling me that I need a separate pasuk by the nasi to tell me that even b'di'eved it's ma'akev? And I apply that to all of the other laws of chatas, that to tell me not only does this apply lechatchila northness, but it also applies b'di'eved. V'halo kvar nemar bimkom asher tishachet ha'ola tishachet ha'chatas. So there's a pasuk later on in Perek Vav of Sefer Vayikra, which tells me that by all korban chatases, it has to be slaughtered in the same place as the ola is. So why don't you use that? So ha lama yatsa. So then why does the korban of the nasi also say the same thing? Likvo alo makom shimlo shachta b'tzafon pasal. It's coming to teach me that if I didn't slaughter it in the north, then it's going to be pasul. In other words, it's coming to tell me that even b'di'evet it's no good. So, in other words, the question that the Gemara is asking is, you're learning it out from the individual korban goat, korban chatas, together with the korban chatas of the nasi. It seems like we have another limud which learns it out from Perek Vav, a general statement of the chatas that it has to be done in the north, right? And then we add that to the goat of the nasi, not the way you were learning it previously. So ata omer lekach yatsa o eno elo shezet ton tzafun ve'en acher ton tzafun. Now maybe you'll say that that's the din, or maybe you'll argue contrary to that. Maybe all the korban nasi's special statement is coming to teach is that even though we have a pasuk in Perek Vav that says that the chatas should be done in the north, maybe the pasuk by the nasi is telling you only a chatas when it's brought by a nasi as a goat does it have to be done in the north, but other chatases do not have to be in the north. Talmud lomar v'shachades hachatas bimkom ha'ola, and therefore I have the pasuk in again going back to my pasuk for the individual chatas, the regular vanilla individual chatas of a goat, that That's the third pasuk that you need. Zeh bona av l'chol chatos shiyu tu'unos tzafam. So therefore, I have now 3 psukim, which say that the same place you shech the ola, you should shech the chatas. One is coming to tell me that it's lechatchila. Another is coming to tell me b'di'eved. And the third one is coming to teach me that don't think that the reason why the korban of the nasi is stated by itself is to say that it only applies to the nasi. It's actually a universal thing to all chatases. So ashkechan sa'ir nasi bein lemitzvah bein la'akev. So now the Gemara says, okay, but all I have now is a special pasuk by the nasi that tells me that his korban chatas, not only is he part of the general rule, but he is also even la'akev, even b'di'evet, if it's not done in the north, it's basal. But sha'ar chatos nami ashkechan lemitzvah, la'akev minola. And all other chatases, I also have a pasuk to tell me that lechatchila they should all be done in the north. But how do you know that even b'di'evet it's ma'akev by all other chatases? Dichsiv ba'kispa uchasiv ba'seira. So the answer is because it's written by the sheep and it's written secondarily by the goat. In other words, the Gemara's answer is there was no reason for the Torah to single out, slaughter the chatas when you're bringing a sheep chatas for certain kinds of violations. When you bring a sheep chatas, let's say for being machal Shabbos unintentionally, you bring a sheep, right? So in that situation, the Torah says also, slaughter it in the north like in Ola. And it says the same thing by a goat. You didn't have to say it in both places. I could have inferred one from the other. The fact that the Torah wrote it explicitly twice teaches me that it's la'akev. So the bottom line is that now I see from here that I'm learning it out from the fact that the Torah writes it once by the sheep and once by the goat to tell me that all chatases have to be done in the north, even la'akev. So the Gemara's question now is, Ella oso lamali. So now the question is, what about the word oso that is written in the context of the sa'ir, of the chatas of the nasi? In other words, I had thought that perhaps that the word oso was coming to tell me that only the sa'ir of the nasi has a special status, that it has to be done in the north, both lechatchila and la'akev. Why, now that you've shown me that all chatos are the same, that both lechatchila and b'di'evet, they have to be done in the north, why then does the Torah specifically state oso? Dafka it has to be done in the north. It's not true. So miboy le'lichidetanya. The answer is for the following. Oso b'tzafon ve'in se'ir nachshon b'tzafon. It's to teach me that only this kind of tribal prince chatas has to be done in the north, but the chatas of one of the Nesiim for the Chanukas HaMizbeach that we just read about in Parshas Naso last Shabbos, remember, 12 Nesiim over the course of 12 days brought a special korban chatas individually to dedicate the Mizbeach. And the reason why that does not dafka have to be in the north is because it's intrinsically different. A regular chatas of a nasi is being brought for a known sin. These Nesiim, when they inaugurated the Mizbeach, were not atoning for specific sins that they had committed, and therefore the requirement is not upon them to have to do it in the north. Maybe lechatchila they have to do in the north, but b'di'evet, it's not ma'akev. The Tanya b'samach yado al rosh ha'so'ir l'rabo se'ir nachshon l'smicha diver Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon Omer l'rabo se'ir avodas kol chavim l'smicha. And we have a brisa. Now, why would I think that the goat offering, the goat chatas of the Nesiim by the Chanukas HaMizbeach would have required northness la'akev? For the following reason. As Rabbi Yehuda points out, the word v'samach appears both by a regular goat chatas, and it also applies by the Nesiim who press down on the animal. So therefore, just like so it's coming to include v'samach yado al rosh ha'sa'ir. In other words, the word ha'sa'ir is excessive in that pasuk, and that tells me not only for the chatas of a nasi do you have to do smicha, but also on the chatas of nachshon for the Nesiim. did they have to do smicha as well? And because the Torah compares them for smicha, I might have thought that the Torah compares them for northness as well, li'ikuva, la'akev, and therefore, kamash malan oso, that's what the word oso is coming to teach by the chatas of the nasi, that only it has to be in the north la'akev, but not the chatas of nachshon, of the seir of the nasiim for the Chanukas HaMizbeach. Now, the Gemara says, so salka daita chamina hol v'israbu l'smich l'srabu nami litzafon kamash malan. I just spoke that out. I might have thought that according to Rabbi Yehuda, the connection is made that you have to do smicha for the regular sa'ir of a nasi, so too you have to do smicha for the Chanukas HaMizbeach nasiim's goat. So therefore I might have thought that I have to also have northness in both cases, so kamash malan that you don't. So maskif la ravina hanicha la Reb Yehuda la Reb Shimon ma'ika la meimar. Well, that only works out according to Reb Yehuda, who says that the word v'samach al rosh ha'so'ir is coming to include smicha for the Chanukas HaMizbeach korbans. But according to Reb Shimon, he says that that's not what the word v'samach es yado al rosh ha'so'ir is coming to teach. It's got nothing to do with the sa'ir of nachshon. It's got to do with when the congregation atones for an unintentional act of avodah zarah, the Sanhedrin has to press down on the animal. So according to that, why do you need a special pasuk of oso to exclude the sa'ir of nachshon if there's no indication that it should require northness? So El Amar Le Marzurtra Bered Rav Tavi La Ravina Ula Reb Yehuda Minicha Lamai De Israbi Israbi Umai De Lo Israbi Lo Israbi. So Rav Tavi says, I'll ask you an even better question. Even according to Rabbi Yehuda, who says that the Torah connects the regular seir of a nasi for smicha to the seir of nachshon for smicha, that's all the Torah connects them for. Why would I think that just because the Torah connects them for the requirement of smicha, it would connect them for the requirement of northness? There's no reason to think that. So why do you need the word oso even according to Rabbi Yehuda? V'chi tema ilo mi'ate kra hava amina teise b'vinyan av. If you're going to tell me, well, if I didn't have the word oso, I might have said, just like by the so'ir of a nasi, it has to have smicha and it has to have northness, so too everywhere else where a so'ir is bringing a chatos, which is a goat, you have to have both those things. Im kein smicha gufi teisim hipinyonav. So then why do you need a pasuk, the extra word sa'ir in the pasuk, to tell you that smicha is connected from the regular sa'ir of a nasi to sa'ir nachshon? If it's a binyan av, then even without the extra word has sa'ir, you can make the application from the regular sa'ir of a nasi to sa'ir nachshon. So ela midoros lo gamrinan, achanami midoros lo gamrinan. So what are you going to say? Why does the Torah explicitly need to connect the regular sa'ir of a nasi to sa'ir nachshon? Because without that, I would say you can't extrapolate from a perennial korban that is meant for all generations to a one-time korban that was brought by the Nesim for the Chanukas HaMizbeach. And therefore, the same would apply. Just because you need northness for a sa'ir of a nasi, which is perennial, does not mean that you would require it for the sa'irim that were brought for the Chanukas HaMizbeach. So that can't be what the word oso is coming to exclude. Ve'ela oso b'tzafon, ve'ein shochet b'tzafon. So therefore, you have to say as follows. The word oso that's written by the nasi is coming to tell me the following halacha, that only the shechita has to be done in the north, but the shochet, the guy who's shechting the animal, does not have to be standing in the north. And like we learned previously, the guy could be holding a very long knife and be standing not in the north and extend the knife into the north and slaughter the animal. Now, you might ask a question. If we've already seen that the Kabbalah and the Makabel and the Kohen doing the Kabbalah has to be in the north, why don't you say the same thing by Shechita? The answer is very simple. There's a conceptual difference between being a Makabel and being a Shochet. A Makabel has to be a Kohen. A Shochet does not have to be a Kohen. So just because I know that the Makabel has to be standing in the north does not automatically tell me that a Shochet has to be standing in the north. So therefore, from here we learn that only the animal has to be shechted in the north, but the Shochet does not have to be standing in the north. So Shochet midir Rebbe Achia nafka. But one second. I agree with you that that's the halacha, but we don't derive it from the word oso that's written by the Nasi. We derive it from Rebbe Achia's limud. The Tanya Rebbe Achia Omer b'shachat oso al yerach hamizbeach tzafona. Ma tamulomar lefisha matzino omed b'tzafon u'makabel b'tzafon v'im omad b'darm v'kibel b'tzafon pasol yachol avzeh kain tamulomar oso b'tzafon v'ena shochet b'tzafon. He learns it out from a different word, oso, which is talking about the korban olah. And it says he shall slaughter oso, only it, in the north. And that pasuk teaches me that only the animal has to be positioned in the north during shechita, but the shochet does not. I might have thought that the makabel has to be also, that just like the makabel has to be in the north, so too the shochet has to be in the north. And therefore the word oso teaches me that that's not the halacha. So if I already have the word oso written by the korban olah, why do I also need the word oso written by the nasi, the nasi's goat? Ela oso b'tzafon ve'ein ben of b'tzafon. So the Gemara says, okay, it must be coming to exclude something else. It must be coming to tell you that when your chatos is a bird, the bird does not have to be shechted in the north. Only an animal has to be shechted in the north. The Tanya yachol yehi ben of ta'un safon. V'dinhu ma ben son shelo kavalo koin kavalot safon ben of shekavalo koin enu din shi kavalot safon. As the Brisa points out, that I can make a logical argument that if an animal chatas has to be shechted in the north, certainly a bird chatas has to be shechted in the north. Why? Because an animal chatas does not have to be slaughtered by a kohen, but a bird chatas, by definition, has to be killed by a kohen using a process called malika, which is sticking the sharpened thumbnail of the kohen into the nape of the bird's neck. And since that can only be done by a kohen, then certainly I would think it's more restrictive in its halachos. If the animal requires northness, then certainly the bird would require northness. So Talmud Omar oso. So the Gemara says that's why the word oso is there, to tell me that a bird does not have to be slaughtered in the north. But one second, Mala ben son shekain kavalo kli. But wait a minute, I still don't need oso to exclude a bird. I would automatically exclude a bird because a bird is less chamor, because a bird is killed without any instruments. Whereas a kohen or anyone who's doing the shechita has to use an instrument of a knife. Then when we say an instrument, how do we know that you have to use an instrument to slaughter an animal? We learn that out from Akedas Yitzchak, Rashi tells us. And Tosfos tells us also. It says, Vayikachsa es hama'achelet lishchodes beno. That Avram took the knife. And so therefore we know that you can't shecht an animal with your fingernail or with some other non-kli instrument. You have to use a kli. So maybe that's the reason why an animal requires northness and a bird does not. So we're back to our question, why do you need the word oso to exclude the bird? Ela oso b'tzafon vein pe'itzach b'tzafon. You're right. So oso must be coming to exclude a korban pesach. It's not coming to exclude a bird. It's coming to exclude. I might have thought that the korban pesach has to be shechted in the north, and therefore oso by the nasi tells me that only a chatas has to be done in the north and not a korban pesach. The Tanya Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Omer yachol yehi pesach tod safon. As Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov teaches in the Brisa, you might think that a korban pesach requires northness. V'dinhu uma ola shekain lo kavalos man l'shchita so kavalos safon pesach shekavalos man l'shchita so anything shikvalot safon. Because I can make up kal v'chomer. A korban ola can be brought any day of the year, and it still is limited to be required only in the north. So certainly a korban that is constrained to be brought only on one day of the year, on the 14th of Nisan, certainly it should require northness. So Talmud Omar oso. So therefore, maybe that's the reason why the Torah wrote oso by the nasi. But wait a minute, mala ola shekain kalil. But one second, maybe an ola is more chamer because it's totally burnt, whereas a korban pesach is not, and that's the reason why it requires northness. So you don't need the word oso to exclude korban pesach. So learn it out from the chatos, mechatos. So just like the chatas can be brought any day of the year, and yet it still requires northness, kal v'chomer that a korban pesach. So therefore I need to exclude it from osa. But wait a minute, malachatas shekain mechaper sal chayv krisus. But one second, a korban pesach maybe is more chomer to require northness because it atones for a karei sin, whereas a korban pesach does not. And so therefore you still don't need the word osa. But may asham. So learn it out from the korban asham, which requires northness. And if that requires northness, then certainly a korban pesach, and that's why I need oso to exclude it. But wait a minute, mala asham shekain kodshe kodshim. But one second, an asham could be inherently different because it's kodshe kodshim, whereas korban pesach is only kodshim kalim because it's an individual korban. So therefore, that's the reason why it requires northness and not a korban pesach. So you still don't need the word oso. And even if mikula nami sheken kodshe kodshim, and even if you're going to bring it out from a combined limud of ola, chatas, and asham, to say they all require northness, so certainly korban pesach should require northness, but they're all kodshe kodshim, and korban pesach is only kodshim kalim. So you don't need the word oso to exclude korban pesach. You would exclude it logically. So la'olam kida amran meikara oso bitzafon ve'in shochet bitzafon. So the Gemara says, okay, you got me. So what is the word oso coming for? It's coming back. It's coming for what we had said before, to tell me that the person who's doing the shechita does not have to stand in the north. Udakashalach midarebi achya nafgalan lav limaute shochet bitzafon ela ein shochet bitzafon avol mekabel bitzafon. So the answer is that Rabbi Achya's pasuk that was written by the Ola teaches me that the person who's doing the shechita does not have to be standing in the north. He could be standing in the south, for example. The pasuk that we're bringing of Oso is telling me an additional halacha, that only the shochet does not have to be in the north, but the makabel does have to be in the north. In other words, it's the shochet's leniency to the exclusion of the makabel who must be in the north. But wait a minute, we already established that the makabel has to be in the north from makabel milokach vilokach nafka. So we already established that from taking that word vilokach, cutting it in half, say vav lamed lo kach, right? So if we learned it already, what do you need the extra word oso? The Gemara answer is lokach vilokach lo mashmalei. We're not so happy with that. Not everyone would agree that that's a legitimate limud. Let's just go a few more lines. Okay, ashkechan shchita ba'olu lemitzvah, kaboli nami lemitzvah. Ashkechan shchita ve'kabola la'akev. I'm sorry. Ashkechan shchita ba'ola lemitzvah. Kabola nami lemitzvah ashkechan, period. Shchita ve'kabola la'akev minola. Okay, so now we've established that shchita for an ola is lechatchila in the north. We've also established that the kabola lechatchila has to be done in the north. How do we know that for a korban ola that it's even la'akev, which means that if it's done b'di'evid in anywhere else other than the north, it's pasul? We've established that for a chatas, but we haven't yet established that it's la'akev for an ola. So Amar Rav Ada bar Ahava v'itema Rabba bar Shila kal v'chomer. We'll make a kal v'chomer. Well, ma chatas haba'a mikoch ola me'akeves, ola shaba chatas mikoch eino din she'me'akeves. He says that if the korban chatas is only a derivative of the korban ola, meaning the main source text for knowing that it has to be done in the north is written by the ola, and yet a chatas, which is a derivative of that, is la'akev, then surely the korban ola, which is the source text, must be la'akev as well. But malachata shekein mechaper salchavi krisus. But the Gemara says, but wait a minute, not necessarily so. Maybe a korban chatas is inherently more chamer because it atones for a chi of kares, which an ola does not. So Amar Ravina hakashali l'Rav Ada bar Ava klum matzinu tafel chamer min ha'ikr. So Ravina says, let me explain to you what Rav Ada bar Ava is saying. Forget about any other considerations of which korban is more chamer. The bottom line is that chatas being in the north is a derivative of the korban ola. The source text is the korban ola. We never find that a derivative halacha will be more chamer than the source text halacha. And therefore, that's the proof. You don't have to come up with any other arguments. If, at the end of the day, the only way that I know that a chatas has to be in the north is from the korban ola, and I know that chatas is li'ikuva, then it must be that the ola is also li'ikuva. It means that if it's not done in the north, it's going to be pasul. The Gemara is going to challenge that premise tomorrow. But this is a good place to hold it. Have a good day.